that get kind of restless. I know when I was young, I was sitting in those seats. I was the same way. I was actually the troublemaker, trying to get everybody to laugh and all of that. I pay attention to the speakers, the performers, and things of that nature. That's why I'm up here today. Like the brother said, I am the author of Round of God Check amongst a variety of titles. Show of hands, how many of you read any of my books, like Down in the Dirty, Round of God Check, My Man's in Them, Heaven and Earth? Okay, well, we got some.
Krista, right here. Right here, she read them. She being shy, she read them.
Well, I'm not here this evening to talk about my books. I'm actually here to, one, talk about how writing was my outlet out of the streets, and two, about choices and decisions and the effect and the consequences and repercussions behind them. Age range, give or take from 13 to 18, basically. 2012, 2013, 2014. Graduates. Nobody wants to graduate? Come on. I don't know that. All my graduates, I'm becoming graduates. My doctors, my lawyers, my entertainers, my athletes, whatever.
Doctors? Excuse me, right over here.
I see y'all. The twins out there, I see y'all.
So sorry, surgeon. Excuse me.
Yeah,
well, that's better.
When I was 12 years old, I was already selling drugs in the new projects in the bricks. By 13 years old, I was already in Union County Juvenile Detention Center. By 15 years old, I had already been in Union County Detention Center 6 times. And by the time I turned 16, I was convicted as an adult in North Carolina for drug trafficking. I went to adult prison at age 16. Where are my 16-year-olds at?
I ain't 16.
Where are my 16-year-olds that are still in school? Trust me when I tell you this. There's nothing to be embarrassed about or ashamed about raising your hand when I ask who's an educated young adult. See, that was my problem. I thought that it wasn't cool to do the things that I like to do, like writing, poetry, drawing, writing rhymes, things of that nature. That wasn't cool when I was coming up. So, as a form of acceptance, I did what everybody else was doing in my community, the young people for that matter, the majority. And I realized that when I reached a certain age, young adulthood, I realized that things that I was into and things that I thought I liked, I actually didn't. I only did these things because everybody else was. And if I wanted to be in the in crowd, then I had to do and act the way the in crowd was acting and the things that the in crowd was doing. But I realized today that it's cool to have an education, it's cool to do the right thing, it's cool to be positive, it's cool to be your own person and not allow someone else to dictate or control how you move, especially if it's in a negative manner. And I want to take you back to, again, choices and decisions. Before I even attempt to go into that, but the show of hands, how many of you young people are tired of hearing about a classmate, a friend, or a family member in your age range getting murdered? With the show of hands, how many of you are tired of that? Okay, because the people who are up there or the people on the back that can't see your hands, with the clap of your hands, how many of you are tired of losing your friends, classmates that you thought that would walk the stage with you while you were in your cap and gown receiving your diploma? I was incarcerated at the age of, when I was going to my junior year. I was incarcerated in North Carolina. And I had to get my diploma while I was in jail. But when I first started embracing the streets, and my mother felt that she had lost me or couldn't reach me, the one thing she asked of me to promise was that I allowed her the opportunity to see me walk across the stage, receive my diploma, and give it to her. That was her request. Fellas, this is for you. With a show of hands, how many of you young brothers would hate to disappoint your mother? With a show of hands. Every young fellow in this room, hand should be up. If it's not, it better be up when I ask it again. Fellas, with a show of hands, how many of you would hate to disappoint your mother? Okay. So you can understand how I felt when I deprived my mother of that opportunity. But you know what? When it was all said and done, right, wrong, and indifferent, and when the smoke cleared, and when I went off to prison and served over 12 years of my life in prison, it wasn't my man's in them. It wasn't all the young ladies that professed their undying love to me, that they would rather die for me. It was only my mother. It was only my mother that came to visit me when I was in federal prison. It was really only my mother who made sure that when they called for mail call, I received a card or some letter, form of inspiration and motivation to help me get through my time while incarcerated. It was only really my mother who sent money so that I could order the necessities that I needed when I was in prison. And it was my mother who made sure that the phone bill was paid whenever I ran it up from collect calls from the prison. There's a saying that goes, tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are. How many of you guys know that?
I like that.
For those of you who don't, it's basically saying that who and what you affiliate with and surround yourself with, you may ultimately become. So if you're constantly surrounding yourself around negativity, then nothing but negativity comes out of you. But if you surround yourself around positivity, then only positive results will come out of that, unless you just reject it. And to take it a step further, again they say to surround yourself with who you want to become. Take me for example. I surround myself with individuals who make more money than me, because it is a form of motivation and inspiration for me to succeed and achieve and hope to get to where this individual is. Not to hate on them, not to resent on them. See, when the brother was talking about the era, it was a different era than it is today. The era that I come from, the word hating didn't exist. It was all love. Even in the midst of all the chaos, the mayhem, the negativity, it was all love in the hood because we were a community and we were bonded by a struggle. Nowadays, many of you, not you per se in these seats, but many of you young people latch on and embrace something that you don't come from or you don't really know about. Not because you have to. Not even because you want to. Just because. Just because you think it's the thing to do. But let me tell you about just because. Just because you young ladies directed it to you, and I'm not preaching to you, because I'm not a preacher. I'm only sharing these things with you because, number one, I have 3 teens, 16, 17, and soon to be 18. My 2 daughters are 10, applying for high school. My son, he's also in high school, in Atlanta. And through trial and error, myself first, and then observing my own children, I realized that when we make a decision to be around something or someone without really thinking that decision or choice through, it never goes the way we think it's going to go, or the way we want it to go. Young ladies, I'll give you a true story. Imagine being attracted to a young street guy, hustler, a blood, crib, drug dealer, just a guy that runs the streets. Just because, unbeknownst to you, he got beef with 6th Street, 3rd Street, or the other side of the projects, or 4th, or whatever. And this is the day that y'all supposed to meet up at Ferraro's, or when the party was going on at Herd 1, or when they were at the Y, or when they was at the Boys and Girls Club. Imagine that's the meeting place. And again, unbeknownst to you, that's also the meeting place where there's rivalry intend to get back. How many of you know that bullets had no names? Every hand's supposed to go. I'm asking obvious questions here. This is not even a trick question. How many of you know some young person that has been killed by a bullet that was not intended for them? Okay. Okay, my hand goes up also. I know a young lady when I was coming up, she was dating a guy. And because she accidentally chose the wrong door to open, thinking it was the bathroom, he was told to take her to the movies and then to the park. And the next day, she was found with her brains blown out. She was 15. Her brains was blown out because she saw something that she wasn't supposed to see. This is a true story. 1990. In Elizabeth, New Jersey, you can look it up. And I'm sharing this with you because back then, violence here in Union County, murders, wasn't at the level or capacity that it is today. There was no Bloods, Crips, or anything when I came home from prison in 2006. I went to prison in 1995, 94. So you tally up those years. And when I came home, I couldn't believe how the era had changed. How young people have went from respecting their elders, their mothers, their grandparents, to just blatantly disrespecting them. And I'm not saying you guys. I'm just saying in general. Because if you're here today, then you're here for a reason. I don't see many of you sitting next to your parents, so you weren't forced to come here with your parents. You came on your own accord for whatever reason. And again, I'm saying these things because this is a major contributor of what's going on in Plainfield. I'm going to deal with Plainfield. I'm not going to deal with anywhere else in the world. I'm going to deal with Plainfield today. But you guys need to know that right now, unless you all get it together and help your peers, meaning your friends and anyone that's around you that you're going to school with, interacting with, unless you pull their coat and tell them that no, this is not the route to take, or I don't think you should be doing that, then the next generation to come will be lost. Because right now, you guys are the most crucial generation in our history. So many things are made available to you now that wasn't made available to me, my parents, their parents, and so on and so forth. You guys are in the best position of your lives to accomplish and achieve any and everything that you want. Education is the key to unlocking any and all doors of opportunity. And that's what you young brothers and sisters have, you young men and women. Doesn't matter your nationality, your ethnic background, what community you're growing up in. You young men and women are the key to our future. The future lies in your hands. You guys will be the next professors, scientists, doctors, lawyers, entertainers, athletes, so on and so forth, educators, so on and so forth. It will be you who will be raising up the city of Plainfield. Even if you move out of Plainfield, you will still be a representative of Plainfield because you can always reflect back and tell the stories of how you made it out. And that's why I'm here today, this evening. I don't mean made it out like I left Plainfield. I still live here in the city of Plainfield. But I made it out of the streets through writing. Question for you. What's your favorite subject in school? Math. What's yours? What is it? What's your favorite subject in school? Oh, everybody wants to know how to count money. That's where you're going with it. And the fact that you even have a favorite subject within itself, that's powerful. Because how many young men and women you know right now in your age group that are dropping out of school already? So you have to know, either you know them or you know of them or somebody told you. Because of one thing or another. And I'm saying right now, you got, first I commend all of you and applaud you. Matter of fact, all of you give yourselves a round of applause for even coming out and being in school. Choices. You have a choice. You can make a decision to go right or go left. That's your free will. That's what separates us from animals. Our own free will. You've been given that opportunity. Even when your parents say, do this, you have the option not to do it. But the important thing about that is you need to know what comes behind your choices and decisions. And then furthermore, you need to think it through to see if you really can handle that scenario. You join a gang, they jump you in. It gets heavy, so you need a gun. It's deep. You're faced with a situation where a gun is being pointed at you or being drawn on you. And you have to draw yours. Still, even in the midst of this situation, you have a choice. Do I pull the trigger or not? It's a choice. You're saying to yourself, if I don't and he does, I'm dead. If I do, I don't really want to kill him, but I just might. If I do, I go to jail. If I go to jail, I'm going to go to jail for the rest of my life. This is what you have to do, and I took it to that magnitude of a scenario because this is what's going on in Plainfield. For you, it may just be breaking curfew. It may be a situation of you sneaking out of the house. It may be a situation of you hiding a report card. It may be a situation of you doing something that your parents will disapprove of. At the end of the day, if you just stop, slow down, and take the time to think it through, I can assure you that you'll make a better choice and decision than what you initially intended to make. I'm not telling you this from something I think or something I read. It's something that I had to learn myself. It's something that works for me. It's something that works for so many. Right now, you're good. You have no real major responsibilities but cleaning up your room, taking out the trash, doing the dishes, going to school, coming in the house on time. You don't pay any bills. You don't have any bills. You have no major responsibility. You need to take advantage of this. Because the moment you reach that point in time in your life where you're on your own, you're going to see what it really feels like to be on your own. I want to share this because I gave you the scenario of me being 12 and hustling. But let me tell you how all of this came about. My father was a hustler. His father was a hustler. His father before him was a hustler. My mother didn't come from that. She never ran the streets. She never drank. She never used any drug. She was an educated, still is an educated woman. Went to school, worked, wanted to provide for her family. Prior to her family, she met my dad. That whole good girl like bad boy, young lady. No, I'm not going to put y'all on the spot. Y'all not even going to raise your hand and ask the question. Oh, ask the young ladies, how many of you like, I'm not even going to say like street guys, but the ideal of what a street guy is supposed to represent? How many of you young ladies like that with a show of hands? Parents and adults, I want y'all to take a look at this because this is real. And y'all know it's real. Why? Because when we were their age, it was the same thing. It was the same thing. And this is what my mother went through. But when my mother decided to shy away from that type of lifestyle, it got rougher and harder for her. Because my father was in prison. And he cut off the funding to provide for the family. So my mother was forced to move back to the projects with my grandmother. She took college classes and she worked after school. My grandmother was elder and was not in a position to watch me or my siblings the way she needed to in the midst of what we were growing up around. So with minimum supervision, not intentionally, but nonetheless, minimum supervision, I was left out there to make choices and decisions for myself when faced with these type of things. They were smoking weed. I knew I didn't want to smoke weed. If they were smoking cigarettes, I know I don't like the way none of that smell. If they were drinking, I knew that I didn't like the smell of alcohol. But when I seen that money coming, it was over for me. All types of thoughts crossed my mind, like, man, get the new Jordan, get that, get the jacket, I can drive, I can get the chain, all of these things here. And there was no male role model or male figure around me to say, man, this is not for you.